be here. Welcome. We're just getting things started here as the panelists. All right, we will be getting started. Like 30 seconds or file in to today's conversation. Super excited to get things rolling. It's not every day that you get organizations to come together and talk about mental well-being and neurodiversity in the workplace. All right. Welcome to everyone who is coming in. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be coming from today. We are so grateful that you are joining us for Mental Wellbeing and Neurodiversity in Action. My name is Amanda Burke, and I am the head of Getting Hired. I am a 30-something woman who uses the pronouns she and her. I'm of mixed racial descent and have a light complexion. Today I'm wearing a white flower over my right ear. I have brown curly wavy hair, hazel eyes, and a nice red lip. I'm currently wearing mixed accessories and a tan blazer with a black shirt. Getting Hired's In Action series is a roundtable discussion or panel where our inclusive partners like Motorola Solutions, Merck, and Walgreens, and Allegis Global Solutions have the space to highlight what actions they're taking to support and optimize the success of diverse identities and diverse disabilities in the workplace. Before we get started, I'd like to thank everybody for taking time out of their day today to join us. We're grateful that you're a part of Getting Hired's community, either as a community partner, like our partners at Hire Autism, who is joining us today, one of our employer partners that I shared even earlier, or if you're an individual looking for a new opportunity, and an inclusive workplace is something that's at the top of your list. As you know, there are so many options out there when you're trying to find an organization to optimize your success. We truly hope that you leave here today in a positive way with tools and best practices to help further inclusivity in action. Let that be in your day-to-day life or in the workspace. Before I pass it over to our moderator today, Ms. Chelsea Hartner of Allegis Global Solutions, here are a few quick housekeeping items. Closed captions is enabled. If you'd like to turn them on, you can do so by clicking on the More button at the bottom of your screen. It's the bottom right. You can click Captions and then Show Captions to turn them on. There are proofs in showing that captions can help lots of different individuals, including neurodiverse individuals, being able to stay in the conversation as things continue to go on for more than 8 minutes, 15 minutes, 45 minutes. Today's session will be the full hour, and our goal is to have an additional 10 to 15 minutes at the very end of our conversation to be able to address any questions that may arise from the conversation that we're going to have today. If anything does resonate with you, I'm a big emoticons fan. So for our live viewers and participants and even our panelists, let's use our emoticons and our nonverbals to show and really hype up the folks that are sharing what the organizations are doing and honestly what they're doing too, because I'm sure there's going to be some personal links that come out. So I'm going to stop talking. If you know me, I'm real good at it. And I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Chelsea Hartner, today's MC. Chelsea, take it away.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And hello to everybody who's logged in today for a discussion on mental health awareness and neurodiversity. We have a fantastic panel for you today, so we're going to get right into it. Again, I'm Chelsea Hartner. I'm a DEI program manager for North America at Allegis Global Solutions, or AGS for short. My pronouns are she, her, and for my self-descriptors, I am a Caucasian woman with long curled brown hair and blonde highlights. I'm wearing a white shirt and pendant earrings. Now, I would like to pass the introductions to the panelists. And panelists, if you could please introduce yourself with self-descriptors, along with the name of your ERG or BRG that you're representing for your company today. And please also share maybe why mental health awareness is a topic that your company or ERG values. So we'll go ahead and start with Julie, and then Julie will go ahead and pass it to the next panelist and so on.
Great, thanks for having me. I'm Julie Oakley. I'm a white woman in my 40s. I have long brown hair and I'm wearing glasses today and a tan jacket. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm here working with the disability BRG from Walgreens. So our Disability Alliance BRG, we really started that to help engage and educate and support individuals with disabilities and our allies at Walgreens. But overall, we have our people vision is to care for our team members as whole people. So that includes inside and outside of the workplace and supporting physical and mental health and well-being. And we really want to help try to normalize conversations around mental health year round. So I will toss it to Kimberly.
Thanks, Julie. My name is Kimberly Hornstein. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am the president of the People with Disabilities and Allies Council at Motorola Solutions. I'm a fair-complected woman in my mid-50s. I have blonde-ish hair, blue eyes. I'm wearing a floral shirt, and to help support mental health awareness, I have my nature in the background. I am at my home deck office, and I will pass it on to Courtney.
Hi, everyone. So excited to be here today. My name is Courtney Carroll, and I am the manager of the Higher Autism program at the Organization for Autism Research, one of the community partners of Getting Hired. My descriptors are that I am a white woman in my 20s. I have brown curly hair and tortoise glasses and a cream sweater on. And we work closely with Getting Hired to promote the employability of autistic and neurodiverse individuals in the workplace. I will pass it on to Dan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Howard. He, him. I am a Caucasian male in my mid-30s. I am awkwardly tall. And I have brown hair and a brown beard with a lot more gray showing through than I'd really prefer. I partner with a lot of our business councils, including the People with Disabilities and Kimberly very closely. And really my goal in partnering with these communities is just to make sure that we can create open dialogue. Open dialogue, in our opinion, is the foundation of everything. From open dialogue, you can start to build trust, and from trust, you can really start to generate change. And I'm quite certain that we have to pass it along to someone else, but I will be the first to admit I'm not wearing my glasses today, and I really can't see anything. So I apologize. I'm going to butcher the name because I can't quite see it. I believe it's Martha Gilbert.
Yes, that was a butchering of the name, but it's totally fine. My name is Marquita Gilbert. My pronouns are she and her. I am a Black female, who I like to believe I look like I'm in my 30s, even though I got 20 years on that. And I have locks styled away from my face. I'm wearing large framed black glasses, a teal dress, and silver jewelry, natural makeup, and a huge smile. I am the global co-lead for the Capability Network Employee Business Resource Group at Merck, alongside my co-lead Jean Coe. And I am also a sales leader in the US market here at Merck. And our EBRG has been around for, give or take, in many different forms, about 20 years or more in its current form in about the last 8 or 9 years. And Jean and I have been at the helm for the last year and a half. And I like to believe having significant impact in changing the conversation and or encouraging, starting, and enabling the conversation around disability.
Awesome.
And that note, I turn back over to Chelsea. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Fantastic. Thank you all so much for your introductions. I heard a lot of opening dialogue, opening more communication around this topic. And I think that that's a really fantastic place for a lot of organizations to start if they haven't already started to introduce the topic of mental health awareness. But I am starting to see that it is becoming a buzz topic for employee engagement and attraction. Many are leaning into ERGs and BRGs like yourself to amplify this topic. Some organizations have started to make it a strategic initiative. And so because of that, I'm really curious to learn a little more about the events that each of your organizations have hosted so far this year. And if you happen to have seen any results or impacts from any of those events yet. I know we're still in Mental Health Awareness Month. So there might not be a ton of, you might not know, you might not have seen as many results quite yet, but if you have, please share. And Marquitha, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Absolutely. So, I could talk about some of the things we've done in the month of May, but you mentioned earlier this year, one of the things that we did, we like to focus on the intersectionality of having a disability. You can belong to any group and still be a member of the disability community or an ally. And one of the things that we did was the impact and effects of racial discrimination on mental health and mental well-being in the workplace. That was an event that we hosted in the month of March, along with several others. In May, we had a guest speaker, Nora McInerney. She's the host, and she's the host of a podcast, Terrible, Thanks for Asking. And she came in to speak on being better than fine, because we often say when someone asks us how you're doing, we say, oh, I'm doing fine. And the reality is we're not, but we're covering for whatever reason because we don't feel it's safe to speak up. We've also had one of our senior executives to come in and speak to do a session on talking about anxiety and imposter syndrome. And this is one of our leaders, one of our C-suite leaders. And the reality of that, the reality of those discussions is that it's allowed us to normalize the discussion on mental well-being across the organization. In June and July, we'll start a senior leader podcast series talking about disabilities and being a leader and encouraging and supporting disabilities and continuing that ongoing conversation. While it is a corporate goal of ours to, and is highlighted in our annual environmental social governance report, the opportunity to have leaders better understand, respond, and support our employees and their differing abilities and what it means to be an employee who either is a caregiver or a person living with a disability or a differing ability, as I like to say, is significant. And that impact, I think, is going to be both what we hope to see, what we both have seen happen. We've encouraged that conversation, and that conversation is trickling down in the organization, and what we also continue to have impact across, so that we can both ask and track what disability is across the organization.
That's fantastic. And I love all the creative ways that you've engaged through different events. The intersectional topic is fantastic. And it's a really important and powerful conversation, and something that we're going to also talk a lot more about today, especially as it relates with neurodiversity. And so one thing I want to kind of just point out, like, you had a podcast host, like, that's fantastic. Like, those are little things that ERGs and BRGs can kind of take note of and say, maybe there's somebody from another podcast that we can tap into and see if they're a resource that might be able to lean into this conversation, especially as experts in the field. So I love that. And the senior leadership, fantastic job. Julie, tell us about Walgreens. What's going on there?
Sure. And I love that podcast. We have some internal podcasts, and I'm going to be looking out for yours as well. I think that, again, we really wanted to use this opportunity of Mental Health Awareness Month to help normalize the conversation around mental health, but also to ensure that all of our team members are aware of all of the tools we have available to them. So we've started a mental health challenge that we had one challenge each week of the month, which is really encouraging folks to try one new thing to enhance our emotional well-being. So we had all sorts of different activities and information. We did have different BRGs help out. So Women of Walgreens was one that hosted a guided journey. And through this, we also had our senior leaders speak, which I think goes a long way. When senior leaders are willing to come on and talk about their own struggles or the struggles of their family, everyone feels like they really can have those conversations. In addition, we rolled out a couple of new benefits. So we rolled out an in-the-moment support with licensed clinician that's available to our team members and to their families. And with that, they get additional 5 no-cost counseling, again, for them or their families per issue. And they can do that either in person or they can do that over video. We also have this great channel where we have live classes that folks can participate in. So we added some new classes this month. We added one specifically for pharmacists managing stress, and also one for caregivers with children with special needs. I think, again, it's hard to measure the impact. We had a lot of folks participate, And we also had World Meditation Day on the 22nd this month. We attempted to break the Guinness Book of World Records for the most online meditations in 24 hours. So I'm really anxious to see how that went. But regardless of whether we met that or not, we did see a lot more employees utilizing the tools that we have going on and just giving them a try and learning about them. So I'm really hopeful to see when the month is through what impact it has overall.
That's awesome. And the challenge too that you put out to your employees. I'm really interested to see how that resulted by the end of the month. So I might be reaching out to get a little more information on that. That's awesome. Motorola, what's going on over there? Kimberly or Dan, if you want to share.
Thanks, Chelsea. I love what you're doing at Merck and Walgreens. We're marching similar to your initiatives. So we leveraged our EAP, and they did 3 webinars for us. They did 2 for supporting our children's mental health. The benefit of that was the second session was at 7 p.m. Central Time in the US. So it was morning for our Asia Pacific team. So the Asia Pacific and Australia group actually got to participate during their daytime hours, which was fantastic. The other event they led for us was a mindfulness event. And similar to Merck, we got into the discussion of the question, how are you, and how horrible that question really is, and finding different ways to ask that question. I personally have been asking, how's your day going on a scale of 1 to 10? And if someone says 5, I go, oh, that what could happen to make it a 7? Or if they say 8, I might say, oh, that's fantastic. What would it take to get to a 10? So just creative ways when you not to ask, how are you? The other events we had were all co-sponsored with our other ERGs. We call them business councils at Motorola. That's why I got tongue-tied on that one. We did.
Kimberly, it looks like you may have gone on mute.
Thank you. We did inclusivity with the LGBTQ Council. We did developing professional growth with 5 other councils, and how to overcome burnout. We had a paint and sip with our young professionals group. We have every Monday we had a chair aerobics, and we had one department-wide full yoga, which was amazing. Every single one of our recorded events had an introduction by a senior leader of vice president or higher. So they gave their personal experiences with mental health, either their personal experiences or those with their children. And then I think what was really significant at the very end of the month, we had a full mental health day on May 26th, where every single Motorolan was given the opportunity to have the day off. And I went for a walk. Many people posted on LinkedIn the things they did. Some people planted flowers, some people just hung out with their kids, but it was really great to have all Motorolans off, so we didn't have to worry about the internal emails going back and forth. Thank you so much, Chelsea.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't help but think of that question that you started to ask on a scale from 1 to 10. How are you feeling today, and how can we get to a 10? I actually think that would be a fantastic takeaway for managers to maybe start taking into their teams, especially when there's large world events that are happening. It feels like almost every day. Sometimes just being able to ask a question like that to tap into really getting a lot more personal and authentic with our employees. That's just a really great takeaway for me personally. I really love that one. And what I'm hearing a lot, and I love the most, is you all are tapping into your senior leaders, and your senior leaders are stepping up, and they're promoting disability inclusion, and they're promoting mental health awareness inclusion. And I just think that that's really fantastic and quite a testament to the work that you and your ERGs and BRGs are doing within your organizations, because I know that you are a lot of the catalyst for the change that's probably happening there. So great job. Now, I want to go into a little bit of a deeper conversation around the mental health, around how mental health and intersectionality kind of play, but now on the neurodivergent side, because this is obviously a neurodiverse inclusive panel as well. So we want to ensure that we're also talking about that too. So I believe that Motorola has some really exciting things that they're doing in that intersectionality space. But I do, just in case there's folks on the call who aren't as familiar with what neurodivergence is, I do want to just kind of give a little bit of context there, because this is a newer dimension of diversity that some organizations are starting to include in their disability inclusion conversations. Some companies have large hiring initiatives around them. Some are just starting out on their journey. So I just want to recognize that and just kind of put some context around it. So I try to explain neurodivergence. It's an umbrella term. It really captures the various conditions that are a result of the difference in brain development, function, and behavioral traits that are typical or neurotypical progression. So these conditions include folks with ADHD, autism, dyscalculia, dyslexia, dyspraxia, and Tourette syndrome. So that's just to provide some context for any folks that are on the call that might have some curiosity around that. But to get a little bit deeper into that intersectional conversation, Kimberly, I believe you had some context you also wanted to share on that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. And the reason why I'm so invested in this is I have a autistic son. He is very high support needs, so he most likely will never work. However, Motorola does have a decent amount of people who identify as autistic and who are extremely capable. And maybe they have a little bit of social anxiety, or they prefer not to be on camera, or they don't want to talk in meetings. And that's perfectly fine, because not every job needs to be camera facing, people facing. And I think we just have to make sure that when we market our jobs, that it's not all about how we present in an interview. It's who we are inside and what kind of knowledge we know. So for example, we went to NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers Conference, and I asked the recruiting staff if they just please remember that when they meet people, to really look at the resume and not how the person presents. The one thing I'm really proud of is that we relaunched our neurodiverse affinity group, I'll call it. It falls under the umbrella of our People with Disabilities and Allies Council, but they have their own webpage in our company, and they advocate for neurodivergent individuals. They put out studies, they talk about ways to better serve not just the neurodivergent population, but the neurotypical populations as well. So one great example is the closed captions that you gave. So we're constantly striving for more inclusivity in the workplace, especially with the neurodivergent group. Thank you, Chelsea.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for sharing on that. And to go a little bit deeper in this, Getting Hired actually invited Courtney from Higher Autism, who's already introduced herself, to share a little bit more about kind of bridging the gap within mental health and neurodivergence in the workplace. So Courtney, if you wouldn't mind, tell us about Higher Autism.
Absolutely. And Kimberly, that was a great segue. So I was happy to hear about what Motorola is doing over there. But Higher Autism is a free program of the Organization for Autism Research, and our mission is to provide meaningful employment opportunities as well as mentorship to autistic adults. So as we discussed today, mental health is very important in the workplace, but we also recognize the importance of it in the job search as well, in that process specifically for our autistic and neurodiverse individuals. Finding and keeping employment directly does impact the mental health of autistic individuals. So here at Higher Autism, we support that by partnering with inclusive employers like those on this call today and many others, giving them the opportunity to post their available job listings free of charge on our job board, which in turn, our autistic talent in our pipeline can apply for these roles, knowing that this is an employer who is going to be inclusive and hear them out and hear out their needs and what they need to be successful, as Kimberly mentioned. We also offer the opportunity to all of our job seekers to work with a free mentor. We call them navigators on aspects of the job search. So those things like the resume, cover letter, interview prep and mock interviews and some general job searching, because it can be challenging. The job search is very hard. And this is a virtual opportunity, so job seekers can work with these mentors right from the comfort of their own home, also kind of playing into that mental health piece.
I noticed the free of charge job posting feature. I think every company that's tuned into this should be taking note of that. That's fantastic. Now, one thing that I hear a lot, and I think is going to start becoming a lot more of a buzzword, is neuro inclusion. And I think that it's a really important kind of topic to also kind of blend into this as well, because in DE&I, it's not good enough to only ensure that folks get hired into a company. We have to ensure that folks stay, that we retain them, that we advance them, right? Like that they're treated equitably as well. So I think that maybe giving a little context on that word might also be helpful, because I think that's going to start popping up a lot more as folks dive more into the neurodivergent space.
Absolutely, Chelsea. And as you mentioned before, when you were talking about, what that word neurodivergence and neurodiversity means, it's really encompassing those different ways of thinking. And that's what neuroinclusion is working towards, is simply including all individuals in the world and workplace, regardless of their way of thinking, making it so that these workplaces are able to adjust to those needs, to specific accommodations that can then in turn help them be very successful. Because what I may need, or what Kimberly or Chelsea may need in the workplace, is going to look very different. And the same is true for neurodiverse individuals. There are different things that they may need to be successful on the job, and that is going to vary from person to person. So one of the ways that we are supporting that with our employer partners is, just working closely with them, no matter where they're at in their DEI journey, or if they have a neurodiverse hiring program already, to have those conversations, open up, talk about this word, get it out there, and also offer, training opportunities so that they can continue to learn and foster neuroinclusivity organization-wide.
That's fantastic. And I was just taking some notes there. This was a really efficient panel. We actually have moved through the majority of our questions. So one thing that kind of stands out to me, I'm going to go a little rogue here. I'm curious, what are some of those best practices that you've helped other companies kind of instill when they are hiring folks within the neurodivergent space?
No, that's a really good question. And it is one of those questions that's tricky, because like I said, every person, what they need is going to be different. But one of the things I do say is kind of starting, from the very bare bones, looking at, taking a closer look at your job listings, making sure that you are being clear in what is preferred versus what is required. Because right off the bat, that's going to be one of those areas where someone who may have a different way of thinking can come to a job listing, see that, oh, it says, preferred a master's degree. I don't have that. I'm unqualified. And kind of right off the bat, take themselves out of the game. So starting from a very beginning stage, then looking at the interview process, are there ways that we can be supportive of individuals in the interview process? Kimberly, I believe you mentioned this before, giving them the ability to have their camera off, giving questions ahead of time, really just opening up conversations about different accommodations, reasonable accommodations that individuals might need to make it through these different stages, then to getting to the on-the-job portion. And even when you get to that stage, asking how they best prefer onboarding. That may be different for each person. What would be helpful for you to be most successful in even just the beginning few weeks of on the job? Because like you were saying, Chelsea, we want to make sure that these individuals feel like they can keep this position. They have the tools, they have the individuals in their support system that are going to help them get through to these next stages. Hopefully that answers your question a little bit there.
Yeah, that definitely answers my question. And I think that also, you mentioned a lot of things like having the camera off, which Kimberly also mentioned earlier. preparing them with questions ahead of time. Those kinds of things all really help with that mental health component as well. Because I myself am also neurodivergent. So I know that for me, I can be very anxious. I can have a lot of tendencies to kind of jump to conclusions in my head. And so sometimes being a little more prepared for things or coming in knowing what to expect helps me to be more at ease to perform my best. And so I love that those are best practices that you are helping other companies instill. And something that, you know, another thing that kind of popped up around this, and especially as we're talking about even just disability based ERGs, there's a huge topic right now about self-ID. And that is a very large topic that a lot of organizations are starting to take on so that they can get a better understanding of what their organization's demographics actually look like. Kimberly, can you talk a little bit about that? I believe Motorola has an initiative there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for letting me talk to this. So about a year ago, we had a self-ID campaign, and it was not just identify as a person with a disability, but it was also if you have veteran status or if you have LGBTQ status and the ability to add pronouns. What we do on these types of events is when the senior leader introduces, say, mindfulness, he or she may say, remind people of closed captioning, and then remind people that if they would like to self-ID, they can go into our Workday system and self-ID with a disability. The beauty is you do not have to specify what the disability is. And we let people know, just like you said, Chelsea, that we're creating this culture of bringing your full authentic self to work. And the more authentic people are in self-ID, the better we can meet the needs of our general work population. And as a federal contractor, I don't know, I'm not sure if Walgreens or Merck is one, but Motorola is one, and we're held to a standard. The standard is 7%. It is very hard to get to 7% unless you keep bringing up the topic of self-ID. And one little thing, self-ID is actually checking a box, but self-disclosure is me saying, I've suffered with anxiety my entire life. As I get older and older, I have more coping mechanisms, and I'm much better at dealing with my anxieties. I think in my college years, it was more depression, then maybe it was borderline OCD. So my letters have changed over the years, and because of this open culture and maybe saying, I'm feeling a little stressed out now, I need to step away or take a break. And to Daniel's point, like creating that whole open dialogue where we can be honest with our coworkers and our bosses and our managers to let them know what we're really feeling. And same thing with this, kind of knowing what we're going to talk about in advance definitely helped. But yeah, every opportunity we get, we let people know they can self-ID. We just want to be open and honest and transparent.
And if I can add to that, Kimberly, thank you. We at Merck, we do have a self-ID campaign in our US HR system. We've tried to work on it globally, and there's lots of different things to consider with works councils and local government requirements and differing requirements or definitions of disability. But as you mentioned, it is a requirement for any organization that does business with the government in the United States to have a certain percent of their population, currently identified as 7%, as identify as people with disabilities. Through our self-identification campaign, I don't think we're not at 7%. We're getting closer. We've had it in place for at least 10 years that I'm aware of. But the concern is always for any person to say, I have a disability. And they believe that if they put it in the system and note that, then it's going to be tracked to them and possibly impact their developmental opportunities. When there's no connection to them individually, it just helps the organization on the back end. The self-disclosure piece is very significant. And as I had mentioned earlier, one of the things that we're striving to do, and I feel like we've been somewhat successful, is normalizing the discussion around disability by having senior leaders more involved in the conversation, more involved in the discussion, and in doing so, allow a safe place for people to both self-identify in the system and self-disclose. What I find interesting, particularly in the United States, around self-identification of a disability, it could be a neurodiversity, it could be a person with diabetes, being a cancer survivor. It also includes LGBTQ QI plus status or veteran status. All of those things help the organization identify resources and benefits that they can continue to provide for the population of people. It's like you don't know that you have a population that needs hearing aids until you have X percentage of your population say, hey, I have hearing issues. I identify as a person who's low or hard of hearing. And now you realize that in your benefits, you don't cover any of those resources. So those things help from a bigger perspective than people recognize when they do actually take time to put in the system and self-identify as a person with a differing ability.
That's great. That's a really important conversation, right? Like data, like having that awareness, having that visibility helps an organization be better for its people. Dan, I believe you wanted to share a little more and expand a little more on this.
Yeah, and I want to apologize to everyone for being so quiet. I'm not going to lie. I wish I was just attending this. I'm taking like really diligent notes and trying to soak this all in because there are so many great practices that I've heard from everyone so far. So I just wanted to take a quick second and acknowledge how great it is to hear all these companies doing these great things. The one thing that I wanted to bring up, because I'm hearing a lot of stuff from senior leadership, and that's so important that senior leaders and executive leaders buy in. But what I've noticed, at least at Motorola so far, is that our business councils or whatever you'd like to call them, cross-pollinating, working together in events. Kimberly brought it up. The YP, the Young Professionals Group, working with the other business councils, and I apologize. In my mind right now, business council is just what's coming out. So working with business, like it creates such a great cross-pollination of thoughts and best practices. But the big thing, it gets the conversation going. And I've noticed, especially at Motorola, again, the more that you're willing to have a conversation with your coworker, the more common ground you start to see, and then the more comfortable you get bringing it up again. I think that's a really important thing, that if you're not comfortable bringing it up to the person that you're sitting next to or your peer in another part of the ecosystem, you're not going to be comfortable self-IDing. So really taking advantage of those opportunities just to network inside your own company. And it could start small. I'm an introvert. I have a very close circle of friends. I don't like to expand out past that. But I took it one baby step at a time. And now all of a sudden I find myself in a situation where I'm working with multiple ERGs and working with multiple parts of our ecosystem and really trying to drive this. And the easiest way for me to accomplish a lot of that was just having conversations that were small. I don't think that we can remove that. If we hear it coming from leaderships, it's great, but I really want to stress that to everybody, that having those one-on-one conversations, talking with your peers, it's just great repetition. And it's going to get you more comfortable to have some people might not be able to see me doing this, the heavy air quotes, tougher conversations, because it's tough for me to talk about some of the things that I struggle with. But it took time, but once you get comfortable, it gets a lot easier.
I love that advice. Start small, right? Like I think that sometimes we want to tackle a really big problem that we might see, but it's the small steps that are going to actually help us be able to get to the bigger goal at the end. And a lot of that is leaning into your ERGs, leaning in with your DEI team, your employee experience team. Like those are going to be really important avenues. And I especially love the start small, because in the ADHD community, we have a smallest possible step just to help us gain that like extra motivation to do the task that's really, really hard to do. And just taking that smallest possible step is sometimes what opens a bigger door, because now you're creating that momentum. So this is a great conversation. I love that we went a little rogue today. I think the audience was in for a treat. I have another question. So how can an ally be involved with moving things forward? Like what ways can people support either their wellness ERGs or their disability or neurodivergent ERGs or BRGs if they're not already part of a resource group already?
I can start with that. I mean, you know, from my perspective, to be an ally for any population, you must first get involved in the conversation. And then you need to understand the dilemma, the challenges, and then use what I would call your ordinary privilege to advance the cause. For us to be an ally for our capability network and capability employee business resource group, we want you to help focus, help others focus on the abilities of people, and then help the organization develop the right accommodations process, the right leadership guidance, the right environment to support their advancement. That's what being an ally within our organization truly means.
I think I can go right after that. That was awesome. This is a really kind of corny example, but what I like to, when I'm having conversations and there's issues with buy-in, especially when it comes to changing a process to make it more accessible, is I tell people to imagine an apple on the table, right? And you walk into the room and you see this beautiful apple sitting on a table. So let's just say we have a room with 10 people, 9 people are looking at this apple and they say it looks fantastic. 1 person is saying the apple looks disgusting. That 1 person who says the apple is looking disgusting is on the other side of the table. They're looking at an apple that's already been bit into. So getting the 9 people to understand that the way that they're looking at it, though from their angle, is fantastic. It's that one other person that they have to understand why is it disgusting, and being willing just to ask that first why question. Because once you start asking those questions and you start buying into, well, why do they think it's bad? Why is this not working? All of a sudden that one person can really start to generate a lot of momentum towards change, but you have to be willing to ask that first question of why. If you don't ask that first question of why, it's really hard to get buy-in past that.
Like Ted Lasso says, be curious. I don't know if there's any Ted Lasso fans out there. Tonight's the last episode, so that's all that's on my mind after work tonight. Walgreens, Julie, do you have anything to add to this as well?
Yeah, I was thinking about what Dan said earlier about starting small with conversations, and that can be even your involvement in a BRG. Maybe it's, this week I'm going to talk to someone on my team about one event happening. So if you don't know about the BRGs that your company has, a good first step or small step is to look into those. But as far as being an ally, we can all be allies and we just need that information. So I agree with Dan, just start small.
Thank you. And Courtney, any advice that you also want to leave for allies that are interested in helping to move things forward at their organizations from an outside perspective, from a consulting perspective?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say kind of kudos to what everyone has said here today, but, as an ally looking at neurodiverse or neurodivergent individuals, one of the things I would say is kind of just to meet people where they are. That's one of the expressions that we use often with our program. Just asking people, what they prefer, what they see as someone who is an ally to them, rather than, we all can kind of picture what we think an ally is in our own brain, but sometimes that's going to be differ from what one person to the other. So just asking people how you can best support them, rather than kind of implying your own biases or practices right onto them.
Can I add to that, Courtney? Yeah. We had Lex Gillette, who's a 5-time Paralympic long jump winner and holds multiple world records and such, and will be competing in the upcoming Olympics as well. But he came in to speak, and it was a collaboration with our League of Employees of African Descent and our Capability Network. But one of the things that he said when it came to talking about being an ally, he says, there were people who would say that they were, when I was walking down the road, because he's blind, he's completely blind, he went blind at the age of 8. He said, and I'm walking down the road and I'm using my cane, And people were like, oh, watch out, you're going to hit that pole, or they're trying to guide you. And in truth, they thought they were being an ally, but they were really just getting in his way, because he's already figured out how to move around and navigate the world in the way that he needs to get around. But people trying to help in the way that they saw that they were being helpful were really not being helpful. So to your point of asking what people need in terms of support and asking what allyship for them looks like is really critical. Because he says sometimes in order to fly, you have to be able to know when to move out of the way.
Wow, that's powerful. That's a really powerful story. Thank you for hopping in with that. This was a fantastic conversation. Thank you to all of our panelists. Folks, you got a treat today. I'm so honored and so grateful to be on this panel with these incredible leaders at their organizations. Now, I'm noticing time, and we do have a Q&A portion of our panel, so I want to ensure that we leave time for that. But I also want to make sure that we mention that there is going to be another In Action panel for Pride Month next June with Getting Hired. So keep your eyes peeled for that. That'll definitely be starting to get posted online on LinkedIn, and Getting Hired will be reaching out to your organizations, just notifying you of that as well. So before we move into the Q&A, we're going to do a quick lightning round. We're going to ask the panelists, what is one best practice you can share with the audience, or maybe one final takeaway that you just want to ensure that folks walk away with today? And we'll go ahead and start with Julie again and do another round robin.
Sure. I mean, there's been so many. I'm changing what I thought I was going to say. I think one takeaway would be just get involved, whether that's a small step, joining your BRG, or being an ally. This is obviously a topic that's interested to you, so get involved in it. If you're a job seeker today, when you're interviewing, ask what do their ERGs look like at the organization you're going to be in. If you're listening to this and you're, not a job seeker and you're already at a company, how can you get more involved? Dan, throw it to you.
Be genuine, be yourself, and trust me, most times that's enough. I feel like every once in a while we all get almost way too into our own heads or overcoached. Be yourself, because if you get the opportunity 6 months down the road, you don't want to have a mask on. You want to be comfortable in your own skin doing the things that you do. So I really can't stress that enough to everyone. Be genuine, be true to yourself, and the right opportunity will align. Let me pass it over to Courtney. She's right next to me on my chat, so I'll keep it easy.
Thanks, Dan. I think mine would be to actively listen to the needs of others. So, asking those questions and posing to people, what is going to help you feel most comfortable, feel most supported, feel most successful on the job, and really, listening to that and finding ways that you can then go and in turn support that individual for what's best for them. And I will pass it to Kimberly.
Hi, so mine is ask for support, ask for allyship, ask people to join your council, participate in all the councils, do what you can. You can't attend every single event, but you can definitely look at recordings of events, and just ask questions to your peers and throughout your org beyond the work related, realizing that we all have a different level of comfortness and sharing, and just, all this advice is great. So Margarita, I think I butchered it. I'm so sorry. Say your name again, please.
Marquita. So, and my advice would be set no limitations. Don't limit yourself, whether you're an organization trying to drive change, or a person trying to get a job in an organization, or somewhere in between. Set no limitations. Everyone around you will find the limitations enough. You don't need to put them there. Just go for whatever it is you believe you want to do, whatever you want to accomplish, and you will find a way to get there. That's one of the biggest things that I feel with my colleague Jean Co. we've been able to do. We see the sky. the sky is open and we go for it. And we may hit some bumps along the way, but we set no limitations in front of ourselves. Others will find them quick enough. We don't do it.
Thank you so much, Marquita, and thank you to the rest of our panelists here. Brittany, take it away with the Q&A.
Awesome sauce. So we have a couple of questions that we've received. One specifically I wanted for us to address, and Marquita already addressed it in the chat. Wonderful you. But I know that there are probably some other individuals that would need that response. And so the question was, what is an ERG, BRG affinity group? What is that? What is it? So let's start there.
I'll start. And we have an employee business resource group, or EBRG. They are typically known as affinity groups, who are groups of people with like-minded interests within an organization. Within Merck, we have 10. And within the capability network, that means people with disabilities, whether visible and invisible, with rare diseases, caregivers, and allies of all of the above, mental illness, neurodiversity, a combination of all of those things. And I think in other companies, I know they have employee resource groups, so they leave off the B, or employee business groups, they leave off the resource, and they have a variety. As an employee business resource group, we are both a resource to the employees, but also focused on advancing the business. So we get involved in business related discussions, business decisions. We help drive change around particular things, like there's a conversation going on right now where my co-lead is leading around using Braille in some of our packaging for medications. So we get involved in the business discussions as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marquita, for that response. Is there anyone that wants to add to that? Because we got a few questions burning.
I can add to that really quickly. That's really the difference between an ERG and a BRG, is exactly what Marquita just said in regards to the business. If there's a B in your resource group, generally speaking, they're working a little bit closer with strategic initiatives. They're trying to make a little bit more of a business push. ERGs are generally, and this is not always the same for every company, and that's a good caveat to note. In general, employee resource groups, or ERGs, are going to be a little bit more focused on their direct community or of the workforce. And there's typically, at most organizations that have ERGs and BRGs, there's generally a progression model so that you can move from a ERG to a BRG model at some point within the maturity of your resource group. And so every organization may or may, I shouldn't say every organization may have one, because there's some companies that don't. But what I found in being in DE&I is that businesses sometimes name them different things, but they essentially do the same things at different companies.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for that further context. I have a question in the chat, and you all keep the questions coming. We're going to continue to answer these responses while we have the time. So from Catherine, she's asking if we could speak to getting access to job shadowing or internships for college-age neurodiverse students who are in an alternative program.
Hi, Catherine. I can kind of speak to this one a little bit. Just given your location, a couple of programs that I might encourage you to tap into. One that's a little bit more countrywide with internships is the college internship program. They are a specific internship supportive program for neurodiverse and students with disabilities. So would definitely take a look there. And also AA&E, which is a little bit more specific to the Boston, Massachusetts area, kind of close by to you. That's the Asperger's Autism Network. They are also wonderful and have a lot of different programs that support employment. And I would also encourage your students to check out the Higher Autism Job Board. We do have different internships that are posted on there as well. And I would love to connect with you too to talk more about their interests.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Courtney. See, we're making connections, networking, such a beautiful thing. Okay, our next question is from Lisa. As a certified rehabilitation counselor, how do you see our role in the hiring department, interview process, or daily workday environment?
I'll take a first stab at that and maybe pass it to Daniel since he's with talent acquisition. But I think in the beginning that every company will ask if an accommodation is needed for the interview process or if accommodations are needed for your day-to-day work environment, depending on if you're interviewing or already working at a company. And then I think everybody's needs are different. So it's good to remember that managers continually ask, how can I support you? We know that work from home is pretty commonplace now, but it always wasn't. It wasn't always, sorry. So maybe some people are supported by actually going into the office, or we just need to keep asking, how can I best support you? What do you need? Because it looks different to every single person.
Absolutely. And Courtney is so fast. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Courtney is so fast. She's already put the response to to the question into the chat. I was about to send it out. I'm gonna put the link for everyone to view because right now it's only the host and panelists that are able to see it at the present moment. Did you want to speak to that question, Courtney? And I heard someone else speaking. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just put the links that Courtney put into the chat. I put it so that everyone can view it.
Yes, my other one was just to Catherine with access to my email.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is Marquita. I just wanted to add, I know, I mean, and I don't think this is direct, I don't have direct direction for anyone on how to do this. I can say that as an organization, it's something that we're looking at. We're working with a company to create a disability hiring strategy globally that not only looks at how do we recruit candidates, but how do we help them through the interview process? Once they get into the door, how do we support them from an accommodations process? And then how do we both prepare the teams and the managers that they're going to be working with so that they can have a successful employment once they're in the role? And then finally, how do we also continue to advance the organization's knowledge so they can have a successful career within the organization? It's a multi-phase process. It's going to take a long time to put in place. We've also just started having conversations with another organization around developing a internship program for people with disabilities. I believe primarily starting to focus with neurodiversity and then expanding from there. So the conversations within companies, I think the time is ripe that we're having those conversations. I'm sure it's not just Merck that's having those conversations. So pay attention to all companies and look at what they're doing and recognize that everyone's trying to do something in many situations. And so be encouraged.
Awesome. We have time for one more question because after this question, we're going to turn it over to the head of getting hired to have closing remarks. Last question from Jordan Decker. What about the pay scale difference for those you hire that are neurodiverse? If we pay less for the job, for the accommodation support, are we really providing support as an employer, or are we charging them on the back end for the accommodations we are providing? What a loaded question.
Accommodation should be baked into the cost that the organization incurs. That shouldn't be something that is taken at all away from a person's compensation.
100%. Yeah, that caught me off guard a little bit. My blood started to boil. That should never be something that goes to the employee. We're large successful companies. Yeah, we'll eat that cost. That's fine. Yeah, that should never ever happen. And I mean, if you feel like something like that is happening to you, Google what to do. I don't want to give anybody advice, but Google what to do, because you'll get a lot of advertisements for next steps if a company's making you do things like that. That should never happen.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
at Motorola, we have an accommodation fund. It's a centralized accommodation fund, so no particular budget is hit when an employee needs an accommodation. It's just a higher level fund that employees have access to, and it's through our employee health and safety organization and the nurses that work at Motorola.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, and everyone. So I am going to turn this over to Amanda for closing remarks. Thank you so much again for everyone that joined and gave your responses and questions.
Yes, thank you. I know I have 1 minute here. Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you to all of our panelists, Markeitha, Julie, Kimberly, Courtney, Dan. You guys were absolutely phenomenal. I hope everyone who attended took away some best practices or some new information to further your involvement in your piece in creating an inclusive environment. One thing I like to say is there are two I's in inclusion. That can either be I as in me in the way that I see things, or I myself and how I personally identify. That can be very complex on its own, especially when we're adding it into the workplace. It's so great to hear the stories and see the actions that are being taken. Diversity is a fact and inclusion is a choice. So thank you all for choosing to be inclusive and creating the environments for people to be able to be successful. As we mentioned earlier, our next In Action event is on June 29th, Pride in Action, where we'll have another group of individuals talking about how their organizations are supporting June Pride Month with all their LGBTQ employees, pipelines, and allies that are a part of their teams. So hope that you have a great rest of your day, great rest of the month, and we'll be seeing you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.